Hey, gun people! Oh, I don't know about this one. So I got to get on the record here. I like this guy, the civil rights guy. What's his name? Civil rights lawyer. I think he's a good dude. I think he does good work. I'm going to disagree with him in this video. And I'm going to tell you where and why I disagree with him. So it may be a long video. I'm going to have to make two parts. But I'm going to educate you, hopefully, on why cops do what they do, why they're allowed to do what they do, and how I think he got this wrong. Now, I'm not trying to say I'm a lawyer. I'm not trying to say I'm smarter than him. Again, I like the guy. I'd be more than willing. I think we talked about doing a show together one time. But I'm more than willing to go on there. He's more than willing to come on here and tell me and discuss this issue. But unfortunately, I agree that it should be wrong, but I don't think by the law these cops are wrong at the entry. Remember, he's saying cops told this girl to kick the door. Is that legal? I'm saying it is legal under certain circumstances, and we'll get into that. Here we go.
Police officer encourages this guy's ex-girlfriend to literally bust down his front door to go get her stuff inside.
Do you have a key to the house?
He took my key.
You've lived here, so if you want to kick the door in and go and get your stuff, you're more than welcome to. Any door can be kicked in, depending on how hard you work on it.
And she does it. Then
First of all, the female officer that's telling her any door can be kicked in depending on how long you worked on it, not necessarily true. There's plenty of doors that, even with a ram, it's very difficult to get through. And there's some doors that, unless you hook and drag a car or pull it out, you can't get through it. So this female cop who's acting like, oh, any door, it's not a big deal. Is this female cop taking this female side? Yes. Did she break the law? I'm not sure she did. Again, all things are viewed in totality of circumstances. So I'm going to go through this.
the cops follow her in the house, go up the stairs, surprise the guy when he gets out of the shower, and tase him. Then they charged him with 5 felonies. He spent a week in jail.
So I'm smiling not because of what the cops did, because this guy, this civil rights guy he's right. He's passionate. Cops need to be controlled. But unfortunately, I think the cops are okay here and they're going to be fine.
Until he got a lawyer who got the charges dropped because the cops did not have a warrant.
Okay, so again, he's saying the charges were dropped because they didn't have a warrant. That's not necessarily true. The grand jury indicted and said there was probable cause to charge him. Had not for the DA saying, I don't know if I can get a jury to convict on this, or I think this is wrong and I'm not going to prosecute it. I don't know what the DA was thinking on why he dismissed the charges. I think it was the right move, but you got to remember the grand jury indicted on this. So there's a lot of blame to go around if this is a bad situation. Not saying the cops are good and right. I'm just saying in this case, I think they're going to be okay. And if you know me, I know you people first time coming here will be like, oh, this guy's a bootlegger. He's going to take cop side. I normally don't take the cop side. And I'm not really taking their side. As we get further into this, you'll see.
Who's governing them? I want reprimand. I want officers put in jail. I want them to experience what I experienced.
This guy spent a week in jail. Total bullshit. Total bullshit. This guy should not have went to jail. However, totality of circumstances.
Even though I'll show you that these officers violated the Constitution, they have not been charged with any crimes. They have not even been disciplined at all. Maybe you can help.
So he's saying the mayor is saying that, oh yeah, we're going to have transparency. It's all bullshit. Nobody wants to hold cops accountable, period. The courts, elected officials, even the public. We still have idiots running around back the blue no matter what they do. And I'm telling you, I just can't believe it.
Giant SWAT team descended on.
So when you see this as a citizen and you're not a little offended, I think you need to reevaluate what freedom is. When you can get a standing army, basically, if you gave me this group and they were rangers or good tactical guys that had some tactical skills and training, I could take over a city. Easy. And when you can put this on a house with a woman and a child inside, you need to rethink freedom. And do we really have control of the cops? And are they nothing more than a standing army that we call police instead of redcoats? So this is a different case. I don't want to waste too much time on this. Okay, so he's going to go into without a warrant. I think he's simplifying it a little bit. I mean, this guy's got a good grasp of civil rights, but I'll disagree with him when he says it. Here we go.
arresting him and charging him with 5 felonies. But after he gets a lawyer, all the charges end up getting dropped because the police officers are the ones who broke the law. This happened on...
So normally when DAs don't want to drop charges when they know they're going to get sued, it's almost like the city manager, the county attorney, all the government officials get together, the DA, and they go, look, you got to try and charge this case. Because then we can at least say in our civil trial that we tried to convict a guy, but the jury let him go. The jury got it wrong. We can pass the blame, and that will limit our civil liability when we get civilly sued. And there's a lot of crooked DAs that'll be like, all right, I'll charge it. I don't agree with it, but I'll charge it. I'm a team player, but you guys are going to owe me when it comes time to vote for a bigger budget or when I want something. And then this backdoor deal is cut and somebody's charged that shouldn't be charged. So the fact that the DA didn't charge, I got to give him some props.
He had met with Raul Ortiz's ex-girlfriend. Her name...
Okay, so we're using terms like ex-girlfriend. As a cop on a scene, if I'm there, I need to determine what X is. Is X 6 months ago? Is X 2 years ago? Is X yesterday? Last week? Today? What does X mean? Because people get back and forth and they have arguments, etc. So that's a piece that I don't have, and I'm not sure he has. Well, I think he does have it because it comes out later. But I didn't have it when I first saw this, and I went, I think the cops are okay. I wanted to add in, she gave the key, she gave it to him, moved her stuff out, and gave him the key today. The same day that this happened. I might have got it wrong. It might be the day before, but I think it's the same day she gave him the key and she took her stuff. That's where everything changes. Was it voluntary? Did she get everything? What was in there? What did she need? Was this whole thing necessary when she gave the key up and she already moved her stuff out? Does it change the criminal conduct? I don't think so. When I say okay, I mean legally within policy doing what they're allowed to do. Everybody's offended, but nobody wants to change the freaking law and hold them accountable. So don't think I'm saying cops should be able to do this, but they can't.
Warner. And Brittany told the officers that she was leaving Raul, that she had previously lived at his home, but she needed to get back inside to retrieve her belongings.
Now here's where we get another detail. Previously lived. What does previous mean? Last month? Last week? Last year? I don't know this. But as a cop, that's what I would be asking.
The police officers then offered to help her. They agreed to meet her at Ortiz's home on Garvin Avenue in Elyria.
It's called a civil standby, done all the time. Somebody wants to get some things out of the house. They're afraid of the person. They don't want there to be problems. Cops show up. Not a criminal matter. This is basically a civil standby. Cops are there to make sure nobody commits a crime. If you commit a crime, then the cops can arrest you. So we're merely there to keep the peace and to make sure nobody commits a crime. That's called a civil standby. That's what these cops were doing. Of course, it turned out to tasing and gun drawing, etc., and we'll get into that.
You can go over and see if they'll cooperate with us there.
Okay. We'll follow you guys over there, okay? Okay.
Upon arrival, one of the officers tried to convince Raul Ortiz to just open the door and allow his ex-girlfriend to go inside. But Ortiz can be heard asking the officers, is he in trouble with the law? The officer confirms that he's not in any trouble.
Correct. He's not. This is a civil matter between two people, and there's been no criminal conduct. So far, I agree. Cop said right, guy did right.
So Ortiz refused them permission to enter the home.
Guy did right. His home, he doesn't want to enter. The facts that aren't really here is, did he tell them she gave up the key, she moved all her stuff, she has no right here. If she wants anything else, she can take me to court. I don't know if that conversation happened. The cops, at that point, when he won't open the door, we're like, hey, this is a civil issue. We can't help you.
Meanwhile, Officer Mitchell continued speaking with the ex-girlfriend. She said, do you have a key to the house? And Warner replied, no, he took my key.
He took my key. Now, when I hear that, you can't do that. He can't deny her access to her own property, okay? That changes it if he took it, if she was living there, and how do you determine someone's living there? Normally we determine, do they have personal items there? Is that their address on their driver's license? Are they receiving mail there? Do they have any other residence? Where are they living or staying? How long have they been there? How long have they been here? Those are questions that we ask to determine whether or not you have a right to the property.
You the key to the house?
He took my key.
And at that point, Officer Mitchell is heard telling Miss Warner that she has the right to break into the home.
Totally correct. You can break into your own home. You can destroy your own property. I know a lot of people don't believe that, but if you're married to some crazy woman and she wants to go out and beat the shit out of your car with a bat, it's community property, and if she wants to beat her own car with a bat, she's entitled to do that. Marie, it's my car, and she has her own car. Doesn't matter. You're both married, both community property. She wants to burn down your house. Well, it might get an issue burning down a house because that might be arson, and we could probably say that she's endangering other people, causing the fire department to respond. It could get out of control. That falls more into reckless. But if I want to beat my own car with a bat, no problem. If I want to throw all your expensive whiskey down the drain, civil matter. Take her to court and sue her. It's not a criminal matter. So, and I think it should be. I don't want government involved in disputes. You can kick your own door in.
You've lived here, so if you want to kick the door in and go in and get your stuff, you're more than welcome. He's got a deadbolt lock, she replied. But Mitchell said any door can be kicked in depending on how hard you work on it.
You've lived here.
So is this crossing the line to encouraging criminal conduct? That's the issue here. Did this cop, I think it would have been better judgment and more reasonable to say, look, if you kick the door, this is going to escalate. He's probably going to respond. We're here. It may invoke a fight. Cooler heads prevail. Why don't you wait a few days? What exactly do you need in there? Let's try a different day. If you want to go to court and try to get it back, you can. You know, a lot of these things are over, I left my hairbrush and he won't give it back. And it's like, really? We're going to go through all this over a freaking hairbrush? Go to court. But again, cops, we don't get to determine how people act. But is there accountability if we encourage somebody to act unreasonable? If she wants to kick her, if she literally lived there and he kicked her out because they had a fight and she kicked the door, I got no problem with that. I don't give a shit. But if there's no criminal conduct, we need to leave until we get a call. But if we leave, she kicks the door and he kills her, we're going to be called that we establish what's called a special relationship with the victim, and then we abandon that victim. So this is at one of the, anytime you get into domestic and family and government control, and it all gets tangled. And I'm not cracking on this guy for saying this, but he's making it black and white that the cops are absolutely wrong. I don't agree with that. Unfortunately, the law allows them to do exactly what they did.
Here, so if you want to kick the door in and go and get your stuff, you're more than welcome to.
Deadbolt lock.
Any door can be kicked in depending on how hard you work on it.
Miss Warner then walked up to the door and did what the officer told her to and kicked it open.
Okay, so here's where we get iffy. The civil rights guy says the cops had no right to enter. I'm gonna disagree with him, but I'll let him say it.
So the ex-girlfriend walks up to the door. She kicks it open. Officers Hirsch and Lewis are then seen going in behind her up the stairs as Officer Hirsch draws his gun on this.
Is that reasonable? Look. That's why I knew that this thing would be a bucket. If you're entering some guy's house that told you couldn't come in and you walk in there, could he respond with a gun? Yeah. Do I want to have my gun in my holster if he responds with a gun? No. Should I follow him in? Maybe. If I don't follow her in and he kills her and I wait outside, am I going to look like a freaking weasel? If I encourage her to go in and then I wait outside, am I not setting her up to fail? Am I not putting her in a dangerous situation? My biggest issue with this is the female officer encouraged her to do this and then use the government resources and police to kind of act as a escort and protection detail for this woman to go in and do things that maybe she wasn't entitled to. And they invaded this guy home while he's in a shower. Is there issues? Yeah. But by law, did they break the law by, they didn't force entry, she did. She said she lived there. She can force entry in her own home. If she lives there, if she forced entry, no problem. Can they follow her in if she gives consent? Remember, the only way to get in a house is warrant, consent, or exigency. Exigency has been diluted, and consent now is even being diluted on who can give consent. Can one party consent or can the other party consent? If both parties don't consent, is that consent? I think I should be able to allow the cops in my house. If I've got a crazy girlfriend that's doing drugs and I find drugs in the house and I call the cops in my house and I go, dude, there's drugs in the kitchen. It ain't mine. I got a crazy girlfriend. Come get them out of my house. Cops come there. It's a crime. They seize the evidence. They do the investigation. They charge her. I think I should be okay with that. The law now is like, well, she may not want him in there, and you can't consent to her. So consent is one of those things that I can only consent to areas that I have open public control to. And we got into this with parolees and probationers. Parents who enable their kids their whole life, get them out of prison, they live in their house, etc. They know their kids on parole. When they accept the parolee to live there, they accept that the cops can come anytime and search without probable cause and search all common areas and his room. So what they do to avoid the cops from searching is they put a padlock on their son's room. And they say, he doesn't have access to the rest of the house. He only has access to this room. It's locked. It is a separate area, and you can't search my house. You can only search his room. And then so cops go in there and we're like, well, obviously he watches TV. He sits in there, he cooks himself something to eat. The bathroom's not his room. He has access to the bathroom. We can search all those areas. And the parents say, no, 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 no. You're violating my rights. You can only search his room. Well, that's not true, because we can search where you live in common area. I'm not saying this is right and the law's right. I'm explaining the law. So people are going to get pissed off at me and go, man, you're a bootleg and you just want government. I don't. I want government accountable. I want cops accountable. But I'm telling you, you can't tell cops they can do this shit and then get offended when they do it. What the cops did here, they're allowed to do. You don't like it? Say cops are not allowed to get involved in civil matters, and they don't respond until they get a criminal complaint that there's criminal action. Perfect. I mean, cops would love that. Then I don't have to go do these civil standbys. Until there's a crime, get out of here. Pretty much what they do anyway. I mean, cops don't do this anymore. Cops don't do anything anymore. But so, if I can't get in your house without a warrant, probable cause, in front of a judge, DA reviews, I state why I think there's a crime, what evidence I'm looking for, and why I think the evidence is here. If I can't do that, no warrant. I can't enter unless I get consent. Do I need consent of both parties or one? I think I only need consent to one. I don't think it's even clear that you need both parties. There is a case to where if both parties are there and one says no and the other says yes, you need to get a warrant. And I don't have a problem with that. But the problem is, if the one person that says no, he can't be in the house. So we have to put the habeas corpus on him, pull him out of the house, and detain him so he can't destroy evidence that we're looking for. If the evidence is destroyable, like drugs or whatever. If we're looking for a motorcycle, he's not going to be able to destroy it. Then there's no reason to grab him and secure the place. But most cops would. If you make me go get a warrant, and I say make me like you're pissing me off because a lot of cops take it that way, I'm not going to allow you access the house to possibly destroy evidence. Normal operating procedure, it's illegal. You don't like it? Change the law. Don't get mad at me. If you say go get a warrant, know that the cops are going to go, fine, come with us. They're going to detain you so you can't go in the house. Now, do they need to put you in handcuffs and put you in a car? Probably not. Will they? Probably. They're allowed to. Should they be allowed to? I don't think they should. I think if you want to leave the house, leave. If you're not a threat to destroying evidence, I don't care what you do. As long as you're not interfering or bugging or chipping in my ear all the time trying to, distract me, I don't care. Leave. But most cops aren't going to want you to leave. Now, the argument to that would be like, we're in there to search for a knife where this guy is a murder suspect, and if we let him leave and we find the knife, which we think we're going to find, now he's on the loose. In that case, I think we ought to be able to detain him. But again, you have to have officers who think rationally, who can articulate why they're doing what they're, and who are made to articulate those facts. You can't just say, back the blue, they were right, don't question them. That's how you get tyranny. We live in a constitutional republic to where we have elected representatives that are supposed to represent us that don't, and they're supposed to control the cops and enforce the Constitution, which they don't, and the cops are supposed to follow the Constitution, what they don't, and we're supposed to have due process and legal rights, which we don't. And so, the whole system is screwed. It's on the downhill. It's going to fail if you're not prepared. I don't know what to tell you. That's how the warrant goes. So the consent issue is issue. Then we have the exigent issue. What is exigency? Exigency is any emergency. And the emergency can be, I got to preserve evidence. I hear a baby crying. I hear a woman yelling help. The house is on fire. Anything that I can say is an emergency or public safety, remember those words, that's government power grab, I can go in as an exigent. I think in this case, the officers have a reasonable, I know you're going to think it's unreasonable, but I think they have a reasonable exigency to say if we allow this woman to go upstairs, he's already denied her, he's already kicked her out, we're here, she just kicked his door. The likelihood that this is going to escalate into a criminal event is pretty damn high. So we need to go in and keep the peace. Maybe if we're there, it won't escalate and he won't hit her, or it turns into them getting in a fight, one grabbing a knife, etc. We can go in and keep the peace. That's going to be their argument. I think most people are going to think that's reasonable. I get it. I think they set it up. I think they lose that argument because they encourage her to kick the door. But those are a lot of ifs and buts and coconuts, and it's all up to subjective reasoning on who believes, and did they really break the law, and the law isn't really clear, and do we want the law clear? And, you know, it goes back to discretion. I think cops have too much discretion. Discretion is being used now as a way to get people to support cops. I could arrest you, but I won't. I'll use my discretion and give you a verbal warning. I'll let you go this time. Those are trading favors, so you'll support me later, but yet I can still stop and search you, and then if I don't find nothing, I do you a favor and let you go. Remember, they took away discretion from judges because judges weren't giving sentences. A judge would give their friend, and I work for a judge, that if you said, God bless and I'm a Christian, you would get 10 times less than anybody that came in that didn't believe in Christ. He pretty much ruled by religion on the bench. And so all the criminals knew that, and the defense knew it, so they would tell their clients, when you get up there and mention God that you're a Christian, you're praying and you read the Bible, and this judge will be easy on you. And so they manipulated the system. So because we have judges who are unethical, they started coming out with mandatory sentences. Judges don't have discretion because they abuse their discretion. Cops abuse their discretion. And so they've kind of taken it away. Domestic violence used to be officer discretion. He hit her, but she hit him, and taking her to jail, she's going to change her mind. We're not going to take anybody to jail. The courts went, whoa, cops are abusing their discretion. What did they do? Legislators changed the law and said cops have no discretion on domestic violence. You must arrest somebody if you see violence. What did cops do? Now they abuse it. Oh, is that a red mark? Oh, then he committed violence. We'll arrest him. And now it's being abused. Discretion and power is one of those things. So in this case, I think the cops didn't use good judgment, but I think they're going to be covered by exigency for following her in. It was her house, and the likelihood for violence was high. And when they entered the house, they were entering it more to keep the peace than to make an arrest. And they told the guy he wasn't in trouble. But when he started coming out of the shower pissed off, which is reasonable, they felt in danger. They felt their safety and her safety was in jeopardy. Therefore, they tried to convince him to stop his aggressive, loud, yelling threats, whatever they want to say, and they felt they needed to tase and detain him in order to keep the peace. And then when they tried to detain him to keep the peace, he resisted, he assaulted, and he grabbed a taser. Therefore, they arrested him for multiple felonies and booked him in jail. And who's at fault? I would argue that the female who gave up her key is at fault. But let's go back to the video here.
Had done nothing wrong. You done kicked my effing door in, Ortiz is heard yelling from the top of the staircase, and then basically all hell breaks loose.
Get off! Come downstairs.
Let's step back and...
So let's step back a little bit and say, who thinks it's reasonable for a guy who has talked to the cops through his door, and they told him he did nothing wrong, and he goes upstairs to take a shower, and then his door get kicked in? I think this guy thought the cops kicked his door in. He didn't know his girlfriend kicked the door in. And even though his girlfriend kicked the door in, had he known that and that the cops said, hey guy, downstairs, this could have been handled 1,000 ways. Kick the door. Hey, Mr. Ortiz, it's the police. Just so you know, we don't have a warrant. You're not in trouble. You're not going to be arrested. She wants to get her stuff. She says she lives here. She kicked the door. We're here to keep the peace. Would that not be reasonable? Of course it would. Do cops have to be reasonable? They're supposed to. What happens when they're not, Rick? Nothing. That's the problem when I hear idiots come here say, cops need more training. They have the training. They're not held accountable when they don't use their or follow their training. That came into supervisors could be charged for not enforcing officers to follow their training. I might be wrong. It's been a while since I've read that case. There was a law that came out that affected supervision of people under your command, and knowing that they're doing things wrong and you don't do anything to correct it, you're now liable for their actions. I think it's called, part of the case was prior practice and procedure. So it became normal to violate the law. Therefore, it was a prior practice and known procedure, and nobody corrected it. Therefore, they're liable. But they're never liable. The taxpayers are liable. No government official is liable because we've given them all immunity, which is just crazy. But anyway, here we go.
This female officer suggests to the ex-girlfriend, just go kick the door down.
Now, I can't remember a specific case where I did this, but I have been, and I may have told a woman she could kick her own door in because it's totally legal. But I have been on cases where other cops have said that, and it's happened, and there wasn't a big deal. The guy was like, what the fuck, you guys are going to let her kick the door in? And we're like, dude, she lives here. She can destroy her own property. Well, that's fucked up. I'm going to go kick her door in. I go, if it's community property, you can go do that too. I mean, if y'all want to destroy each other's property, go ahead. This is a civil matter. We're here to make sure nobody assaults anybody, nobody pulls a weapon or threatens, and then we're out of here. She gets her stuff, we're here to keep the peace, and we're leaving. That's a civil standby. Did these officers go beyond that to encourage her and then go in as an occupying force and threaten a guy in his own house without announcing what, we even have to announce for a search warrant that to let the homeowner know, and hopefully the defense attorney who's defending this guy will read this, or the civil suit. Why didn't they announce their entry into the house? Well, there's no requirement for us to enter if we're following somebody. So you're not going to be able to say they were required to announce. Whereas with a search warrant, by law, we're required to announce, police department, search warrant, demand entry. We have to announce our reason, our authority, and our presence there. These cops did not announce. Are they required to? No, because they were not entering to take government action. They were not entering to seize evidence. They were not entering to search for evidence. They were entering to protect this woman because of a possible violent encounter was going to explode. You may not like it. I don't like it. Don't come here. There's going to be idiots hate me in the comments, but whatever. I mean, this is part of the gig.
You can do it. Any door can be kicked down.
Correct.
And so she kicks the door down.
Correct.
And then the officers follow in
Correct.
behind her.
Correct.
They go upstairs, draw guns, draw tasers.
Okay, so I'm at 32 minutes here. If you want to go watch this case, you can look cop ass woman and kick her ex-boyfriend's front door in. All hell breaks loose. He goes through the video. If you got questions about something else he said, I thought he covered. I think look, for the most part, I like this guy and agree with his thought process and his abilities. And I think he's a constitutional on the right side of most issues. I even think he's on the right side of this issue. Just disagree with him on this is, I think the cops are going to be okay. I think they're going to be able to claim we entered for her safety. We didn't kick a door. We didn't violate the law. We told her she could kick the door, and that's it. Did they encourage her in a civil trial? Remember, it's preponderance of the evidence. All I have to do is tip the scales. Criminal trial, I have to convince 12 jurors to vote unanimously, and I have to, or beyond a reasonable doubt, and above a moral certainty. So a criminal conviction is much higher standard. Civil, I just got to tip the scales. So in a civil trial, will the jury go, did the cops encourage this girl to kick the door? Yeah. Should the government be liable? Yes. So they're probably going to win in the civil, but they're saying the cops should be criminally charged and this is a bad thing and they should be. I don't think they committed a crime in this. I'm sorry. There's plenty of cops that commit crimes every day. In this case, damn, they're not earning a donut, but I think they're okay per the law. You can beat me up in the comments. I think he talked to the guy. Now the cops, they did tase him and he told him he had a pacemaker. That's bad judgment. Could that be criminal conduct? Maybe. Is the DA going to charge them? Hell no. Once the guy grabbed the taser to get it off him, the cop's defense is going to be he was trying to disarm him. As a matter of fact, I think they let go of the taser and drew their guns, which is normally what we do. If somebody grabs my baton, I let go of it and go to my baton. If you hit me with a baton or swing at me or come at me, then I can shoot you. Deadly force is authorized because you've armed yourself with a deadly tool. The reason why a taser isn't deadly, and again, don't hate me, I'm telling you the law, The courts and the laws rule that a taser in a police officer's hands, because they're trained, is not a deadly weapon. It's simply a tool. Kind of like the patrol rifle versus an assault rifle. Because an officer is trained with a patrol rifle, it's a great weapon for defense. But if a pesky citizen has it, it's an assault rifle and they shouldn't have it. Same with a taser. If you take a taser from an officer because you're not trained, it becomes a deadly weapon, because if you use it against the officer and incapacitate him, you could take his gun, and that moves to a higher level and deadly force is authorized. Don't like the law? Change it. I'm just telling you what the law is. All right? So should they have not used the taser once he set a pacemaker? Yes. Is that a policy violation? Probably. Is that a criminal violation? Probably not. They stacked a bunch of charges on him. He went to jail for a week. Nothing's going to happen to them criminally. The city will pay out, the taxpayers will pay out a bunch of money, and it'll be over. Don't hate me, hate the system. We'll end that there. Y'all have a good one.